In this video, I'll talk about how you can create viewports and labels using the Tessera Embedding Explorer. As before, you can go to the Explorer by going to tee.cl.cam.ac.uk, and this time we need to log in. So click on the login button, and I'm going to log in here as admin and sign in here. I'll need to understand and accept the terms shown over here, mostly showing that it's experimental research code and that if you do validation, which is not something we're going to do today, you will be sharing labels which won't be private. Otherwise, all the other labels that you create are in fact private and will not be shared with anybody else. So here I've signed in and I'm going to go to one of the viewports. But before doing that, let's try and create a new viewport. And I see that there's somebody has created a viewport called Brasilia National Park somewhere in Brazil. So let's just create a new viewport near there. To create a viewport, I can actually click here and choose any part of the world. I could, let's say, for example, put in Eddington, which is Girton, which happens to be near where I live. So I'm going to pick this over here, Eddington Avenue, and I'll give it the name, viewport name Eddington Avenue, and let's just pick 2 years, let's say 2020, 2024, and I can make it private. So even the fact that I created this viewport doesn't exist, is not known to anybody. Um, and here we are. This is the view of this location over here. It's in the northwest part of Cambridge. I will click on create. And it'll take about 30 seconds to a minute to see this. So I'm going to pause the video for a minute and restart it when it's finished downloading, which will to save you some time. We managed to finish downloading the Eddington Avenue viewport, and I'll select it over here and just open the viewer. It shows the active viewport is Eddington Avenue, and I'll open the viewer here. And now we're back into the view that we had, a change detection view, and I'm going to switch into the labeling view over here. The bottom right panel now shows the labeling controls. The fastest way to start is with auto labeling. I'll set k equals 5. That's the number of clusters we want, and hit go. And almost instantaneously, you will see the clusters shown as colored regions. Each cluster groups pixels with similar embeddings, which often correspond to similar land cover types. I can name each cluster. Looking at the satellite imagery, I can see that this section over here looks like cropland. So I'll click there, and this immediately puts me into the orange cluster here, and I'll call that cropland. And I can promote it over here, and that gives me the cluster for cropland. Now, instead of using a name like this, let me delete this. I can also open a cluster over here through a labeling schema such as UK Habitats. At this point, if I were to choose this red label over here, which looks like buildings, I can click on the S, and from this I can go into urban built-up areas, and this is artificial developed land, sealed surface. This is buildings. I'll put that over there and promote that. And now I have this as developed land, sealed surface buildings as the view over here. And in fact, this view also automatically labels the entire section of the viewport that corresponds to these labels in terms of similarity over here. I can change the similarity if I want by moving the slider over here, making it less or more similar to the cluster that has already been detected so far. So that allows you to do automatic labeling. Let's get rid of this one over here. I'll go into the manual labeling. In the manual labeling, I can do more precise control based on something that I actually know. So one example would be, this looks like a grassy field in the center of town. So I can go back to the schema, which is over here, and I can browse the schema and choose, for example, grassland. In this case, let's probably say it's a lowland meadow. And now every click I make with the command key press, it drops me a pin which corresponds to these grassy meadows, which are shown over here. So I can place a lot of pins over here. Now I might choose to want to label a whole region using a polygon, I can do that as well by doing a command double click. And now every time I click, it's going to create me a polygon over here. And when I end with a double click, that entire polygon has now been labeled as being a grassy, sorry, oops. I guess I should command click over here. Okay. Right. So at this point, we've labeled our meadows in a grassy locations, and we can see, as before, move the slider and find all of the meadows and grassy lands in the viewport as I did before. With some labels defined in this way, I can do a classification over here, and then this classification essentially shows me what classes have been created. Right now, I only have one class. We could start doing another class over here. So again, I would browse, find, let's say, urban area, a built-up area. Let's just call it U1. And I can change the color by choosing this. Let's call this red color. And now the pins that I drop are going to be the urban areas. So I will go there and oh, I guess I need to finish the polygon over here. And here are my urban areas over here. So these all look urban to me. So I'll just drop some pins in this location, a fair number of pins. And about 20 are what is good for getting good labeling. I've done about 10 so far, and these are, I need to delete that extra polygon there. And then just like before, I can move the slider. It finds essentially the urban clusters. And now with these two classes defined, I can simply click classify and it will find all the urban and the grassy areas in Cambridge in this viewport just from the set of labels that I've defined. And as you can see, it's done a pretty good job. Of course, this is just a quick and dirty suggestion of what to do. And in the PCA, you can see that the green and the red areas are in different parts of the PCA space. Now, the other thing I can do is to look at the timeline. And do that, I simply can close this and click on the clock icon. And this shows me over the period between 2020 and 2024, what has been the change in the number of pixels corresponding to a particular class. Likewise, I can look at the number of pixels over here and I see a decline in pixels. Again, this is not particularly relevant just because I didn't do a very good job of labeling things. Now we can export all of these. So here, if I click on the export, I can export this as a JSON or as a Esri shape file, which is a zip format, and that can be then uploaded into QGIS or GIS tools that you want or ArcGIS. And likewise, I can share these labels. So when I click share, I can make it private or I can make it public. If it's private, I just need to give my name, email, and organization, and it will be exported with these names, and I can keep a downloaded copy. Or if you make it public, likewise, I put my name, email, organization, and submit it, and this allows me to then share labels with everybody else who wants to use the same viewport. And this allows an organization to have many people collaborating on sharing labels. Once a label has been shared, it can be imported. So you can click here and import from a file. Now, nobody shared labels for this viewport before, so I don't have that. But if it were there, it would show up in this list with the name and the organization, and that will allow me to see all the labels that have already been created. So this video now covers viewport creation, auto and manual labeling, export and sharing. In the next video, I'll show how to evaluate classifier performance using some ground truth shapefiles.